Hello, I'm Alex. Welcome to part 8 of this How to Play Dropzone Commander video series. In the last video we went over how you can destroy buildings, leveling them completely. In this video we're going to talk about why you might want to do that. Almost all Dropzone Commander scenarios will use objectives in one way or another, and they come in different flavours. With some exceptions, these are usually claimed by and extracted by infantry, with the goal being to get it somewhere safe or off your board edge. Obviously, armour, anti-air, aircraft all play a role in this combined arms game, but it is getting the objectives and getting them out of there that usually wins games. Objectives are best represented with a 30mm token or coin, but anything can do as long as the sizes are consistent. Distances are measured to the centre of the token. Generally, objectives will either be open or they'll be hidden, and they'll either be mobile or they won't. An open objective is one that's easy to locate. It'll often be an important part of the battlefield in plain sight. An infantry or a vehicle unit that's in coherency with its squad can claim the objective simply by, at some point in its action, being within 2 inches of it. Open objectives in garrisons can be claimed by any infantry squad that is just in the garrison with the objective. Once claimed, the objective remains claimed by that unit until the unit either moves away, so it's no longer within 2 inches, or it's destroyed. The opponent could put their entire army within claiming range of that objective, but if you have claimed it, it is yours until they destroy you. Hidden objectives are harder to find. Even if you as the commander know their general location, they still need to be searched for. A squad in coherency and within 2 inches of a hidden objective marker, or in the same garrison as the objective marker, can attempt to find it by making a search roll. They do this by making a single dice roll for the squad and adding the current round number. If the total is a 7+, they find and claim the objective. If there are enemy units within 2 inches of the objective marker or in the same garrison as it, this gives a -1 penalty to any search rolls attempted. Ground transports can make searching easier by making a scan action. To do this, any transport within 2 inches of the objective marker or within 2 inches of the garrison containing the objective marker can spend both of their actions to generate a scan token. This scan token can then be used by any squad searching for the objective to add +1 per scan token to the search roll. So let's go through an example. We know that there is a hidden objective in this garrison, which contains 2 squads of legionnaires. It's currently round 3, so we're adding +3 to the search rolls. The target number is 7, so we need a 4+ to find the objective. However, there is an enemy squad of resistance fighters in the garrison as well, who are being quite distracting. We therefore suffer a -1 penalty to the search roll and need a 5+. We try searching with the first Legionnaire squad, but we roll a 4, so we fail. This takes both of their actions, so we decide to scan with the 2 bare APCs parked outside. This generates 2 scan tokens, and we spend them both when we search with the second squad. With +2 from the scan tokens and -1 from the resistance fighters, we need a total of 3+, and we find the objective on a 3. It's immediately claimed by one of the Legionnaire bases in the second squad. Some missions will have mobile objectives. These can be picked up and transported. When a unit claims a mobile objective, that unit automatically picks it up. You can either remove the token from the board or put it next to the unit so you know who's carrying it, but it's no longer on the board. You now measure to the unit that is carrying it. That unit can move and shoot as it normally can, and it carries the objective with it as it does so. It can also choose to drop the objective at any point during activation. This will allow another unit to claim it and therefore pick it up. There are a few ways you can accidentally drop the objective, of course. If an infantry squad ever fails a fortitude test, they will immediately drop any objectives they're carrying, and those objectives can immediately be picked up by any enemy squad in the same garrison. Similarly, if an infantry squad is killed by a close quarters weapon, if they were carrying an objective, the squad that just killed them can immediately claim that objective and pick it up. Some objectives may be focal points. Now, this isn't a term that's actually used in the current edition of the rulebook. It was used in previous editions to describe the same idea, however. A focal point is an open objective that cannot be claimed. Depending on the mission, it'll either be scored at the end of a round or at the end of the game, with the player with the most points of non-aircraft within range of it scoring it. The core rulebook has a number of basic scenarios that work largely the same way as each other. Each scenario will tell you where to place the objectives, what type of objectives they are, and how deployment works. For deployment, each unit will either be in readiness, in reserve, or directly deployed. In readiness is the default where your squad or your unit is waiting just off the board, and then when they are activated they move in from any point along your board edge. In reserve is basically your second wave or your backup forces. Anything in reserve cannot activate in the first battle round. However, at the end of the first battle round, they move from in reserve into in readiness, meaning in round 2 they can move in from your board edge. Dropzone is a game of fast aerial dropships, so if any squads in the battle group are either not aircraft or not embarked in an aircraft, they and the rest of the battle group must start the game in reserve. HQ battle groups and some resistance units like their hovercraft are an exception to this and don't have to start in reserve, despite the fact they're not embarked in aircraft. They can instead just drive on from your board edge round 1. Lastly, there is directly deployed. Some missions will allow you to start with your forces actually deployed on the board within a certain area. This does not negate the aerial advantage rule, however, so still, if you have units that are not in aircraft or are not aircraft themselves, they start in reserve instead of directly deployed. So at the start of the game, after you have set the board up and determined who's on what side, you will then roll off and the winner can choose to either deploy first or second. They pick a battle group, they either deploy it in readiness, which will usually be what they'll do, they deploy it in reserve, or they directly deploy it if they're allowed to. The opponent then does the same with their first battle group. You alternate until all battle groups are either deployed in readiness, deployed in reserve, or directly deployed. Then the game starts. You roll initiative at the start of every round. You each roll a d6. Whoever rolls highest can choose to go first or second. A 6 will always win, unless the opponent also got a 6, in which case you re-roll. The players then take it in turns to activate battle groups one at a time until every battle group has been activated. At that point, you go to the roundup phase where any collateral damage is resolved or any other similar effects, and then you roll priority, or roll initiative, for the next round. The game lasts usually 6 rounds for most missions. So for most scenarios, the objective is, as we said, to find the objectives, but also to get them off the board. They're often worth, say, 1 victory point if you find them, but 2 victory points if you can extract them. This can lead to tense moments in the final rounds of most games, actually, where infantry are desperately trying to get to the evac, those evac transports are trying to escape, anti-armor and anti-air are both hunting down the enemy transports trying to stop them from doing that. So you can probably now see how the whole game starts to come together, but there is one final section we've not talked about, and that is commanders, which will be coming up in the next video, so stay tuned.